guys, welcome back. I'm going to be going through my advanced default account structure. And so this is going to go into dynamic creative testing, breaking out re-engagement audiences, as well as lower level funnel DPAs. So let's get started. Alrighty, so prospecting. So in my last video, I mentioned differences between prospecting and retargeting campaigns, prospecting being very top of the funnel, people who haven't been to your website yet in the last 30 days or have purchased from you. And so the way that I'm breaking out in my advanced structure is we're actually going to break out separate campaigns for dynamic creative testing prospecting and then what we're going to call super ads prospecting. So what is dynamic creative testing prospecting? So what this is that this is where you're going to put your new ads for the week. So let's just say your designer just gave you a few ads to test out, or you have some new copy variations to test. What dynamic creative will do is that it will dynamically test all the different combinations of top text inputs, videos, headlines, call to action buttons in order to deliver the best version for that target audience. So we're going to have one campaign that's just for dynamic creative testing ad sets, and then the other campaign is super ads. So what super ads is that these are the best performing variations from your dynamic creative testing. So let's say you ran your dynamic creative testing for a few weeks and there's a variation that's getting a lot of purchases and you want to build it out as a super ad. So what the advantage of building it out as a super ad as opposed to keeping it in dynamic creative testing is that you can build social proof on super ads. So super ads means that you would take that best performing video, that best performing headline, that best performing top text from your dynamic creative testing campaign and build it out as a regular static ad just as you would build out any other Facebook ad. And you would build it out with its post ID, which I'll show you in another tutorial how to do, so that the social proof can stay on that particular ad. Now, I get a lot of questions like, do you keep running dynamic creative testing or do you turn that off to turn on your super ads? What I would do is if your dynamic creative testing campaign is working and the ad sets in it are performing, there's no need to turn it off. You can keep those running and run your super ad campaigns at the same time so that you're not going to limit your performance just to one campaign. There's no need to turn it off, especially if it's working. So as always, we're optimizing for conversions. This is going to be the same throughout the whole funnel. Campaign budget optimization, that is a must. And then you can see here, I broke out your campaign budget. Still majority of the spend going towards prospecting, 70%, while 30% is going towards those lower funnel campaigns. So in this case, it's re-engagement, remarketing, as well as your dynamic product ads. And then if we keep going along on your prospecting campaign, you can see that we're optimizing for purchase. And then I'm utilizing in that dynamic creative testing campaign our best performing audiences. So that's typically a 1% lookalike of purchasers and a broad interest audience, which I explained a bit more about inside of my basic testing structure video. And then so you're going to test your dynamic creatives on your best performing audiences. And if you're getting lost in any of this, I can promise that it's going to make a lot more sense once I go through the video of how to actually build it out. And when I show you what it looks like with the finished product of how I decide what's a super ad, what am I building out, it's going to make a lot more sense. So if the structure part that I'm going through right now is confusing, just bear with me. It's going to make a lot more sense when I'm building it out, but it's important to know how to use this structure doc to reference as you're building it out on your own. So in our dynamic creative, utilizing our best performing audiences, but then once I find those winning variations, so if I'm running dynamic creative and there's a variation that works really well that I want to make as a super ad, this is where you're going to scale through different audiences. So that's why you can see in my super ads campaign, I'm utilizing more audiences than just my basic 1% lookalike of purchasers and my broad interests. Here I'm using a 5% lookalike of purchasers, so getting a bit more broad, different interest stacks, so different stacks of broad interests together. And so it's a total of 5 different audiences that I'm testing out my best performing ads on. And this is really where I want to scale, is in the super ads campaign, since these are my best performing variations. And now I'm trying to find new audiences to scale in. And as you can see, here's a breakdown, more of the audiences. I just say keep the minimum at 2 million for your interest audiences. And then for prospecting, excluding your last 30 days of website visitors, 180 days past purchasers, and then always checkbox interest expansion, because this is going to allow Facebook to expand past your regular targeting. So if you pick an interest, but Facebook thinks it can find someone on a lower cost, it can expand past that. So always having that on. Always choosing automatic placements because we want to let the algorithm find the lowest cost conversions unless we're building out specific ad sets for IG stories. So in a later video, I'll show you my modified account structure if you are utilizing stories, which is essentially just adding another ad set to these existing campaigns and then choosing the story only placement. Nothing crazy there, but I will show you how to do that. Always optimizing for conversions and then choosing your conversion window, 7-day click plus 1-day view. Lowest cost bidding strategy. And so what you might want to do, which I'll explain also in another video, is utilizing different bidding strategies. Is that for prospecting campaigns, if you want to control your cost per purchase, you can set a cost cap or a bid cap where you'll essentially tell Facebook, I don't want to pay more than X dollars to acquire a customer and don't spend my full daily budget if I can't acquire a customer for this much. So that's something that you can definitely use, but I will go into bidding strategies in a later video. And then as you can see here, number of ads. So for this one where I say 5 creatives, 3 text, 3 headlines, this is inside of a dynamic creative test. So when you're uploading multiple variations into a DCT, you have the option to upload up to 5 creatives, 5 texts, and 5 headlines, but I like to keep it at 5 creatives, 3 headlines, and 3 texts for each test. And I'll show you how I build that out too. And then what type? Dynamic creative testing. So dynamic creative testing, you can either do a carousel format or you can test videos or stills. And then similar concept for your super ads as in our basic structures. You always just have 3 to 5 ads on at a time. And these ads, you're pulling your top performing ones out of dynamic creative testing. Now let's go look inside the lower parts of the funnel is what I meant to say. So re-engagement. What re-engagement is people who have interacted with your Facebook or Instagram page or have viewed one of your videos to a certain percentage or a part of your email list. These are all warm audiences that I like to include inside of re-engagement. So they're not as hot as your website visitors or your past purchasers, but they have interacted with your social in some way. So for that, campaign name, re-engagement, I use about 10% of my total daily budget towards re-engagement. And as you can see here, I'm going to have 3 different ad sets. I have one that's for our Facebook and Instagram engagers for the last 365 days. We'll go through a tutorial of how to build out each of these audiences and the exact specification for each audience. Video views. So typically I like to choose people who have viewed at least 75% of a video. So if I have a 1-minute video, if someone's watched 45 seconds of it, they're going to land within this audience. And then I also upload my email list. So if I have a list of subscribers that I want to target, I'll create an ad set for that. And then here are similar exclusions for re-engagement as you would use for prospecting. This is still middle of the funnel, so I want to exclude anyone that's at the bottom of the funnel, which is last 30 days of website visitors and people who have purchased in the last 180 days. Everything here is very similar. We're not using dynamic creative. The only place I typically use dynamic creative is for top of the funnel. Sometimes I'll use it in remarketing, but for this tutorial, I'm just using prospecting for dynamic creative testing. Everything else is just your super ad variation, so building it out as a regular static ad. And then right below it, we have our remarketing campaign or retargeting, however you choose to refer it as. And this is for going to people who have visited the website in the last 30 days. But in this more advanced tutorial, I actually break out my ad sets a bit further. So I'll have one ad set that's for last 30 days of website visitors. I have another ad set for last 180 purchasers, and then I also might upload a couple custom lists and have them in their own ad set as well. So repeat purchasers is a highly valuable list I want to target, people who are high AOV. I can upload that as a custom audience and build out an ad set for that. And so the reason why I might want to break this out to be more complicated than just targeting last 30 days of website purchasers is that there might be special offers that I want to offer my existing customers or my highly valuable customer segments. I want to offer them different deals and show them like maybe new products. I don't have to introduce them to the brand as much. Maybe it's about new product releases or special deals just for them. Here's the description of the audiences a bit more. So if you're targeting purchasers, then you're excluding your website visitors. Same thing if you're for your website visitor audience, you're going to be excluding purchasers, and then all the rest are the same. And then utilizing multiple creative formats like carousel, video, and static ads. And lastly, this one I didn't include in the basic, but it is definitely in the advanced, is your dynamic product ad. So this is taking in your feed and then serving people carousels or still images of the products they recently viewed on the website. So for this one, it's actually a catalog sales campaign. And then I have it broken up into two ad sets. The first one is view content, add to cart. And the second one is 30 to 180 purchasers. So what view content add to cart 14 means is that anyone who has viewed a product page or added something to the cart in the last 14 days is going to fall within this audience. And then for 30 to 180 purchasers, this means people who have purchased in the last 6 months but haven't purchased in the last 30 days. So that's why I said 30 to 180 day window. And then from that view content add to cart campaign, we're going to exclude 180-day purchasers. We just want people who have been to the website and viewed content add to cart in the last 14 days but haven't purchased. And then from the 180-day purchaser campaign, I'm excluding WCA 30 purchasers. Always automatic placements. And then I also will always have no more than 3 for these DPA ads. So for DPA, because the creative is just pulling in your product feed dynamically, this is where you're going to test different copy variations. So maybe one copy variation will be calling out like get it before it's gone, like last day for free shipping, whatever the offer is. You could test different offers for dynamic product ads, hit them with value props again. But I usually will leave 2 or 3 running at a time. And then you can choose to have it as a carousel format. I also really like testing the collection ad format, which I'm going to show you how to build in another video, as well as still images. So this is the advanced default account structure. Please follow along for the next video where you can see how this is all built out in ad account.